A woman is almost never going to look you in the eye and say, "This is the perfect moment to kiss me." Attraction rarely works that way. Instead, she communicates her interest through subtle actions that most men completely overlook. The biggest mistake men make is waiting for words when her body has already been speaking the entire time. Today, I'm going to show you how to recognize the hidden messages her hands reveal when she's hoping you'll make the first move. Miss these signs, and you may never get another opportunity because many women won't repeat themselves after feeling rejected or ignored. Research published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior suggests that the majority of communication between two people who are attracted to each other happens without words. Facial expressions, posture, eye contact, and especially hand movements often reveal far more than conversation ever could. As a woman, I can honestly tell you that many of these gestures happen automatically. We don't consciously plan them, yet they communicate exactly what we're feeling. Once you understand how to recognize these signals, those confusing moments at the end of a date become much easier to navigate. However, there's an important warning. Some hand movements that signal attraction can also resemble everyday habits or nervous behaviors. Misreading them could leave you embarrassed or create an uncomfortable situation for both of you. That's why this guide isn't simply about spotting gestures. It's about understanding the context behind them so you can confidently tell the difference between genuine attraction and ordinary behavior. And be sure to stay until the final signal because it's the one that men misunderstand more than any other, and its true meaning surprises almost everyone. The very first hand signal is one that many men have seen countless times but rarely understand correctly. Imagine you're talking with a woman, and instead of casually fixing her hair, she slowly slides her fingers through it, gently gathering it to one side while revealing the side of her neck. The movement isn't rushed or accidental. It's smooth, deliberate, and happens while she's completely focused on you. In many cases, that simple action carries far more meaning than most men realize. From a psychological standpoint, the neck is one of the body's most vulnerable areas. Throughout human evolution, exposing it has been associated with trust, comfort, and emotional openness. Researchers who study nonverbal courtship behaviors have observed that women display this gesture far more often when interacting with someone they genuinely find attractive than during ordinary conversations. Without saying a single word, she's signaling that she feels safe in your presence and is inviting you to move a little closer. But context is everything. If she brushes her hair aside while distracted, checking her phone, or speaking to someone else, it's probably nothing more than a practical adjustment. The gesture only becomes meaningful when it's paired with strong eye contact, her body facing towards you, and a brief pause that seems to hang in the air. That silence often isn't awkward at all. Instead, it's an opening giving you the opportunity to respond if the chemistry between you is already there. Another powerful clue appears when she lightly reaches out to touch you. Maybe it's a gentle tap on your arm while laughing, a soft touch on your shoulder, or her fingertips briefly resting against your chest. Personal space matters to everyone, and when a woman willingly crosses that invisible boundary, she's often testing the connection between you. Music, like physical contact, releases bonding hormones that increase feelings of closeness, making that seemingly small gesture much more significant than it appears on the surface. The third signal catches many men off guard because it looks almost identical to ordinary nervous behavior. You're having a conversation, and she begins slowly turning a ring around her finger, sliding a bracelet back and forth, or gently running her fingers along a necklace chain. Most people immediately assume she's bored, uncomfortable, or simply keeping her hands busy. But that isn't always the case. When these movements are slow, relaxed, and paired with warm eye contact, they often reveal something completely different. Behavioral experts explain that these gentle self-touching actions can act as calming behaviors when someone experiences positive emotional excitement. In other words, she's feeling the tension of attraction and unconsciously channels that energy into her hands. The important clue is rhythm. Fast, restless fidgeting may indicate anxiety or a desire to leave. Music, slow, smooth, almost absent-minded movements while smiling and staying engaged usually suggest anticipation rather than discomfort. She's emotionally invested in the moment and waiting to see what happens next. I've also noticed something many women do without realizing it. Those wearing rings will sometimes slide them on and off their fingers while talking to someone they're attracted to. Although it may seem insignificant, Body language researchers have documented similar patterns across different cultures. It's almost as though the mind is symbolically removing barriers without the person being aware of it. Once you begin paying attention, you'll notice these tiny details far more often than you ever expected. Another powerful signal appears when her hand gradually moves closer to yours. Whether you're sitting beside each other, at dinner, relaxing on a couch, or sharing a quiet moment at a cafe, she slowly places her hand within easy reach of yours. She isn't grabbing you or demanding attention. Instead, she's quietly reducing the distance between you. Music. In many cases, she's making it easier for you to take the final step by simply reaching over and holding her hand, while still allowing herself to pull away gracefully if you don't respond. This next combination of signals is one of the clearest indicators that attraction is building, because it happens so naturally that most people never notice it. Imagine you're sitting together sharing a funny story and she suddenly bursts into laughter. Almost instinctively, she lifts one hand to cover her mouth, then moments later reaches out to lightly touch your arm, shoulder, or hand. Those two actions together reveal much more than simple amusement. Covering the mouth during authentic laughter is often a sign of vulnerability. She's allowing herself to react without holding back, then instinctively trying to hide just how much you've affected her. The touch that follows isn't random. It's her subconscious way of connecting that positive experience directly to you. In her mind, you're becoming associated with comfort, excitement, and happiness all at once. Studies on romantic attraction have repeatedly found that couples who experience strong chemistry early on often describe moments where laughter naturally flowed into physical touch. One person laughs, the other responds, a hand reaches out, and the emotional connection deepens almost instantly. Music. That sequence creates a powerful cycle where each positive interaction makes the next one feel even more natural. When she laughs sincerely, covers her mouth, then reaches for you, she's inviting closeness without ever having to ask for it. Music. Now, let's talk about one of the most obvious hand signals, although it's still missed surprisingly often. During a quiet moment, she slowly brings one finger to her lower lip, gently tracing or pressing against it while maintaining eye contact with you. She's not nervously biting her lip or checking whether it's dry. Instead, she's unconsciously directing your attention toward her mouth. Body language specialists refer to this as a pointing gesture because our eyes naturally follow whatever another person subtly highlights. When this happens after prolonged eye contact, comfortable silence, and growing physical closeness, she's often exactly what she's hoping will happen next. I told you earlier that one of the most misunderstood signals would surprise you, and this is it. Imagine you're talking to a woman and she slowly places her entire hand across her neck or just below it on her collarbone. Most dating advice immediately label this as a sign of nervousness or insecurity. Sometimes that's true, but there's another version of this gesture that carries a completely different message, and very few people ever explain the difference. Pay close attention to how her hand is positioned. If her fingers are relaxed and spread naturally across her neck or upper chest while her head tilts slightly to one side, she's not trying to shield herself. Instead, she's subtly drawing attention to that part of her body. Researchers studying courtship behavior have found that this open-handed gesture often appears alongside other physical signs of attraction, such as increased heart rate, prolonged eye contact, and enlarged pupils. Without realizing it, she's highlighting one of the most intimate areas you could eventually kiss. Now, compare that to the opposite version. If her fingers are tightly pressed together, her hand covers the center of her throat, or her shoulders seem tense, the meaning changes completely. That's often a protective response that signals discomfort or uncertainty. The location may be identical, but the way her hand is positioned tells two very different stories. One invites closeness, while the other quietly asks for more space. Learning to recognize that distinction can prevent countless misunderstandings. The final signal usually appears when the date is almost over. You're standing together outside her home, beside her car, or saying goodbye after spending time together. Instead of immediately leaving, she clasps both of her hands together in front of her body and remains close to you. It looks innocent, but psychologists describe this as a self-comfort gesture. She's managing the excitement of the moment while silently hoping you'll take the next step. If she keeps holding eye contact, makes no effort to walk away, and gently rubs her thumbs together, she's often waiting for you to turn that goodbye into something much more memorable. Let me tell you something many women rarely admit out loud. One of the most disappointing experiences is standing in front of a man you're genuinely attracted to too, after giving every signal you know, only to hear him smile, say, "Good night, drive safely," and walk away. It happens far more often than you might imagine. Later that night, countless women end up texting their friends, asking why he never made a move when the chemistry felt so obvious. From their perspective, they believed they had communicated their interest clearly, even though not a single word was spoken. That's why understanding these nonverbal cues matters so much. A slow movement of the head that reveals the neck, gentle fingertip contact, relaxed jewelry fidgeting, a hand drifting closer to yours, genuine laughter followed by touch, lightly tracing the lips, an open hand resting across the neck, or crossed hands during an emotional goodbye are not random behaviors when they appear together. They create a pattern. One signal alone may not mean much, but several happening within the same interaction often paint a much clearer picture. The secret isn't to obsess over every tiny movement or assume every gesture is an invitation. Instead, learn to observe the complete situation. Look at her eye contact. Notice whether she's facing you, staying close, smiling naturally, and continuing the conversation without trying to create distance. Attraction is rarely communicated through one isolated action. It's revealed through multiple signals supporting each other at the same time. The more pieces that fit together, the more confident you can be in understanding what she's really communicating. So the next time you're spending time with someone and you notice 2, 3, or even several of these signals appearing naturally, pay attention instead of second-guessing yourself. Becoming aware of these patterns trains your mind to recognize attraction more accurately with experience. The men who understand body language aren't reading minds. They're simply learning to notice what has been happening right in front of them all along, while everyone else remains focused only on words. Here's something I want you to remember. Learning to recognize these signals is only one part of the equation. Spotting attraction doesn't automatically create it. What truly matters is how you respond once you notice those signs. Confidence doesn't mean rushing the moment or assuming every woman wants to be kissed. Real confidence means paying attention, music, respecting the situation, and knowing when the timing genuinely feels mutual. When several of these gestures appear together, combined with warm eye contact, relaxed body language, genuine smiles, and a clear desire to remain close to you, the moment often begins to speak for itself. Instead of overthinking every second, stay present. Listen to the conversation, enjoy the connection, and let things unfold naturally. Attraction grows strongest when both people feel comfortable, respected, and emotionally safe with one another. One mistake many men make is believing they need a perfect script or magical line before making a move. In reality, music body language usually communicates much more than words ever could. A woman who keeps finding reasons to stay near you, repeatedly initiates light touch, holds your gaze longer than necessary, and remains engaged even when the conversation slows, is often expressing interest without saying it directly. The goal isn't to force anything. It's to recognize when her actions consistently match the emotional connection you're already sharing. If you're unsure, slow down rather than speed up. Continue talking, maintain eye contact, smile, and allow her to respond naturally to your presence. Genuine attraction should never feel rushed or pressured. The strongest connections develop when both people are comfortable enough to move forward together. Reading body language isn't about manipulating someone into a kiss. It's about understanding silent communication, respecting mutual interest, and recognizing the moments when both of you are quietly saying the same thing without needing to speak a single word. Now, I'd like you to put what you've learned into practice. The next time you're with a woman and you begin noticing 2 or more of these signals appearing together, take a moment to observe instead of immediately reacting. Pay attention to how she maintains eye contact, how close she chooses to stand, whether she continues finding small reasons to touch you, and how naturally the interaction flows. Learning to recognize these patterns repeatedly will sharpen your awareness far more than simply memorizing a list. Every real-life interaction becomes an opportunity to improve your ability to understand nonverbal communication. After you've experienced one of those moments, come back and share what you noticed. Describe which signals stood out and how they appeared together. The purpose isn't simply to leave a comment, it's to train your observation skills. The more consciously you identify these behaviors, the faster your brain begins recognizing them automatically. Before long, you'll notice details that once passed completely unnoticed, making your interactions feel much more natural and far less confusing. But here's something most people never mention. Recognizing when a woman may want to be kissed is only half of building attraction. Everything leading up to that moment matters just as much. The way you greet her, the confidence you project, the respect you show for her personal space, and even something as simple as the way you hug her can influence how comfortable and connected she feels around you. Those earlier moments often determine whether the opportunity for a kiss ever develops in the first place. That's why understanding attraction should always be viewed as a complete process rather than a single moment. Reading her body language helps you recognize interest, but creating genuine emotional comfort is what allows that interest to grow. When you combine both skills, you're no longer relying on guesswork or hoping for obvious verbal confirmation. Instead, you're responding to mutual connection with confidence, patience, and respect. Master both sides of the interaction, and you'll naturally become someone women feel comfortable opening up to long before either of you says a word about how you truly feel.